Well, good morning, everybody. It's Jeff Slakey and Spencer Hughes on the Daybreak show. I have a great honor now to talk to a candidate fronting the 6th District. It's Rebecca Parson. Rebecca, how are you?
I'm great, Jeff. Thanks for having me on.
I am looking forward to talking with you and getting to know you a little bit better here this morning. First things first, let's just talk about you. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I'm running for Congress in the 6th District, which is Tacoma and the Kitsap and Olympic Peninsulas. And I'm a commissioner on the Tacoma Commission on Disabilities, where I chair the committee working to bring a wheelchair accessible taxi service to Tacoma. I've served as a court-appointed special advocate for kids in foster care in Pierce County, a co-leader of Indivisible Tacoma. I've helped raise money for people detained in Tacoma's private immigration detention center and a lot of stuff over the years. And I've been fighting for progressive democratic values for my whole life. And now I want to fight for them in Congress. And that's why I'm running for Congress in the 6th District.
The 6th District, currently held by a Democrat. Tell us a little bit about the reasonings to challenge them.
Yeah, well, our district, it's a very safe Democratic seat. It's been blue for 55 years. And we have a lot of needs across the district that aren't being addressed right now. You know, including Tacoma, Aberdeen, Bainbridge, Neah Bay, Bremerton, a lot of variety in places in the district. Yet we have some common struggles that we're facing across the district. One being housing, both with rising homelessness and also just unaffordability for both people who rent and people who pay mortgages. For example, in Aberdeen, there's a population of 16,000 and 1,000 people are homeless. So when you have 1 in 16 people in the town homeless, it's clear something's not working there. And so I support the federal government investing billions of dollars in building and rehabbing housing so we can end homelessness in this district. It's a national policy, but I see it really benefiting us here in this district because it's just something we're struggling with so much. It's not something that Congressman Kilmer supports, the housing guarantee that I do. I also support a Green New Deal with a federal jobs guarantee. Now, this district has a rich history of federal jobs programs. During the Great Depression, there were 7 Civilian Conservation Corps camps on the Olympic Peninsula under FDR's jobs programs. And so I see something like that where people can get to work, they can get a job, a good job that provides for their family, and they have that basic level of economic security. Another big issue across the district, we have the top 2 counties in the entire state for opioid-related deaths. One of those, Grays Harbor, doesn't have a single treatment facility that takes Medicaid. They have one for pregnant women, but for everybody else, there's no options there. The other, Clallam County, they had over a 6-year period, 76 addictive prescription pain pills prescribed per person per year for 6 years. And, you know, I really respect the service of our Congressman Derek Kilmer. At the same time, I don't think that he should be taking money from the opioid lobbyists and pharmaceutical companies who caused that, which he does and I do not. And I support a single payer Medicare for all program. What that means in short is basically that anybody can see the doctor or go to the hospital when they need it without any copays, deductibles, or premiums. And it would actually save money over what we spend on healthcare right now. Those are some of the policies I support. Another key thing to know about the 6th District is that 24% of our population is on Social Security. 20% is over the age of 65. It's a lot of people, almost a quarter of people in the district, depending on Social Security for their income. And while Representative Kilmer talks about how he wants to protect Social Security, he was the only Democrat in Washington state who joined with Republicans to sign a letter calling for Mitt Romney's plan to cut Social Security. And so that kind of flip-flopping is just so unacceptable to me because, you know, the grandma I met in Tacoma before the pandemic when I was canvassing, living on $750 a month with rent that's $650, you know, she can't flip-flop on paying her rent or living on $100 a month. So those are some of the key ways that I'm different from our current representative, Derek Kilmer. And the policies I support really set me apart, and also the fact that I do not take any corporate PAC or lobbyist money. He's taken over $3 million.
You can find more of the issues at rebeccaforwa.com. We'll put the links to that in the show notes. How has been the reception to your platform across the district, which is very expansive?
It's been great, you know, for all over the district, especially, you know, of course, before the pandemic, I was all over the district meeting people, canvassing. We had really, I mean, we have hundreds of volunteers helping us. And I found support across the district, both from people who are They've been spending years contacting the member of Congress, asking him to support things like the Green New Deal and Medicare for All, and finding that he won't. And then also people who are busy living their lives, working their job, trying to get by, many people, multiple jobs trying to get by. And I found support among people from all walks of life. And I was even out canvassing in a rural part of the district once in a low income area, and a woman that I spoke with at the door, it was with another group that's promoting the Green New Deal, which for anybody who's not familiar, it's a plan to get to totally renewable energy by 2030. Because that's how long we have to avoid the worst consequences of climate change, according to a panel of UN scientists. What I love about it so much is that it would bring jobs to the district, union living wage jobs. And so I was out talking to people about the Green New Deal with this other group, and we did not ask people who they voted for in the presidential election in 2016, but some people told us they voted for Trump. And we would go through and talk to them about the Green New Deal and then show them the policies that could be part of it, because the goal of this was to make sure that the Green New Deal benefits rural Washington and not just the cities like Tacoma and Seattle. Definitely, it's going to benefit Tacoma, but we want to make sure it's not geared only towards urban cities and larger towns. And they would look at this list of policies, things like the jobs guarantee, or let's say you're going to get a new job in the green tech industry. Maybe you need training for that. That would mean free public college or trade school. If you're a two-parent family and both parents are now working, then you're going to need childcare. So a lot of policies go along with the Green New Deal. And even the Trump voters would look at it and say, well, it's really hard to pick which policies I like the best because I really like all of them. And so I have found support for these policies, and it's just kind of about setting aside the partisanship and just talking about the policies that will help people's lives the most.
I think one of the big issues towards the ballot box this year obviously will be the coronavirus, and it's tough to backtrack and look at what ifs and things like that. But if we were, how would some of your platform issues help us navigate through the current situation we are seeing? I noticed, like you said, healthcare. Also on your site, you talk a little bit about UBI, Universal Basic Income, which I think to a lot of folks is, although a little more familiar now with some of the government sends out of monies, but kind of that idea is unknown to a lot of folks, those ones. And what else can you see on here as we try to get ourselves out of this COVID crisis?
Yeah, this crisis has really shown, really exposed and laid bare the problems that were already there. One being having your healthcare tied to your employer. If you're lucky enough to have an employer that provides healthcare, many people aren't. But for people who have an employer that provides healthcare, we see what happens when tens of millions of people lose their jobs. Something like 5.4 million Americans have lost their health insurance during this crisis, and in the middle of a health crisis, for people to lose their health insurance is just wrong. And in the wealthiest country on earth, we can afford to make sure everybody's covered. Other wealthy countries have been able to do it, and here we have a history going back. Social Security itself was started during the Great Depression, so one of the absolute hardest times in our country's history. There was no tax base to draw on because people were making too little to tax. Yet somehow we found the money and the political will to start the greatest anti-poverty program in our nation's history. And so I think this is a time when we need to be doing things like expanding healthcare to everybody. Representative Jayapal has a bill to use Medicare to pay for everybody to have healthcare during the crisis. So at least, people can get tested, they can get treated. I remember earlier in the pandemic, I was seeing, Washington State made testing free, but not treatment. So it's like, okay, great. You can find out that you have a potentially deadly illness, but you can't do anything about it. You just have to live with that knowledge if you can't afford the treatment. That's the kind of thing I think is just madness. And we need to make sure that everybody can get healthcare during a pandemic like this. Another thing is housing. Of course, we have the shelter in place orders, but if you're homeless, you don't have shelter. You can't shelter in place. It's dangerous both for the people who are homeless and it's just, we can't recover as a society when people just are not housed and they can't recover and stay safe. Another thing, like you mentioned, a universal basic income, that really came into the national conversation with Andrew Yang. And now we're seeing it, like that $1,200 check that most of us got. I got one as well. That's a kind of a form of universal basic income. And the idea is just to make sure that everybody has a base level income for subsistence and that they can get by and not fall through the cracks. Anybody listening who's ever had to deal with Social Security or Medicare or Medicaid or disability or any of that, you know how complicated it is. Food stamps, I mean, the paperwork you have to do. If you miss one piece of mail because you moved from the agency, they cut off your benefits. It's extremely complicated. A lot of people fall through the cracks. A lot of the benefits aren't enough, you know, like I know one person living on $600 a month in Social Security. So universal basic income, I believe we need to be giving people, everybody who needs it, $2,000 cash a month until the crisis is over, to at least prevent, you know, we have a mass wave of evictions looming when the eviction moratorium is over. So at least with this 2K cash a month, we could really start to help everybody.
We are just about a little less than 20 days away from this here, and folks will start to see their ballots in the mail shortly. And under candidate for 6th district for the great state of Washington, it's Rebecca Parson, talking with her here today on the show. You can find out more about her platform, issues, endorsements, and more at RebeccaForWA.com. The push is on here with just limited days left for you, and I can only imagine how different it is politicking now versus politicking 3 months ago. It's got to just be completely different for you.
It is very different. Yeah, it's kind of uncharted territory to be running a campaign in times like this, but we've been able to get a lot done despite that. We've moved all of our, we're not canvassing in person, of course, anymore. A lot of phone banking instead. We've already made over 400,000 calls. So really managing to get a lot done, even though it's pretty unusual times.
Well, we wish you the best in your run here for the district, the 6th district in the great state of Washington. It's Rebecca Parson. Again, you can find her online at RebeccaForWA.com. There's links as well to all the social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram as well. Rebecca, thanks for taking some time with me this morning.
Thanks so much, Jeff. Great to meet you.
Nice to meet you.